In this one, we are going to find the inverse hyperbolic functions. Okay, so previously we know that y is equals to sine x is a hyperbolic function, and we know that y, if it's sine x, it means that we are adding those two exponential graphs. Remember, the other one was negative, the other one was positive. So if we add the two, this is what gave us as a sine hx. Okay, but now we want to look at inverse functions. Okay, we know y is equals to sine x, sine hx, inverse, sine h inverse x. So the inverse there is represented by that power -1 on top of h. Okay, so sine h inverse, you indicate it by that -1, power -1 on top of that h means of x. It means it's an inverse. When you see that negative, it means an inverse. Okay, so y is equals to arc sine hx. So instead of writing like this with the power -1, you can also write it as arc. It means it's an inverse. Okay, arc, it means it's an inverse, so it's arc sine h. So it's sine h x, but it's an inverse, then it's arc sine h x. If it's cos, it's going to be y arc cos x. So those are the only differences. So now, when I given y is equals to sine inverse of x, sine h inverse of x, right, you want to find what is x. So x will be simply sine h of y. Okay, if you are given this function, y is equals to sine h x. Okay, then if you want to find what x is, okay, so in this scenario, it won't be x is equals to sine h x. Okay, it's only the inverse. So this is the original one, then the inverse will look like this. Okay, so y is equals to sine hx, then the inverse of this, it will be x is equals to sine hy. Alright, that will be the inverse of this. And how can I write this in other words? In other words, it's y is equals to arc sine x, or y is equals to sine hx. So we know if we write it like this, x is equals to sine hy. Okay, it knows it's the inverse, alright, function of y. So what is x? According to the rules of signage rules, it means half e to the power y. So where there is x, now we are putting y, because you've rearranged x and y. You rearrange x and y when you are talking of inverses. Alright, and then it will be half e, everything remains the same, but you just replace with the y. Alright, so previously we know the sketch of sine hx was towards the positive y direction here, and also towards this y. Alright, but you're going to find out that when you talk of inverse, y inverse of sine hx, it's not going to be towards the y, it will be towards the x, towards the x. Alright, that is the difference which you must take note on the sketch. So the difference would be, now it's going towards the y, and here it's going towards the x. Alright, here y is equals to sine hx, and as an inverse, you know x is equals to sine hy. Alright, the idea is that we want to retain this, to replace this as a function of something in terms of x, like that. So we want to replace this signage x as a function of exponential function in terms of x. Alright, so this y is written as that in terms of signage x. So now if it's an inverse, what values of x am I going to put now, which are of substitute here, which are not trig function, but any values exponential or x values, which I'm going to put to replace this inverse. All right. So that is the idea which we want to look for. So this is the next step, how we got this y. Okay. It's going to come from here. So we'll be explaining the next step from here, from this equation, how did we reach here? And how did we get this sketch? And how does it correspond with this? Ln, it just means it's a log of base e. Okay, normally it's a log base 10, but log base e is written by ln. Okay, for example, if you punch in your calculator, if you're having a scientific calculator, you can punch log 10 of any number. So log base 10 of any number is the same as equals to log of that number. Okay, so log, you put base 10 of any number is equals to log of that number. So if you say log base e, the e is coming here. Remember, I want to find the value of x, so you must introduce logarithms. Okay, because we want x. What is the x? So it will be log base e, all right, of that number. Now, because it's base e, it changes to ln of that number. Okay, so it must be used to this ln, how it is coming from. All numbers which we use, they are in base 10. But this one, it's a special one because it's base e. Base e, therefore it changes to ln. Okay. So in our next video, we are going to conclude how did we get from here to there. We want to know how did we get this signage inverse of x to become y equals to ln of that. So that is what we'll be working out basically. Okay.